Hey, what's up? We should be live. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Hope you're doing well. It's been 1 week that I missed the live stream. We were on a vacation. We had a lot to get prepared, so I had to not do one. Hope you're doing well. Let me know how you are in the chat. I will warn. Oh, hey, John, how are you? Hey, Jay. Jay Boo. I will warn you, there is a major heat wave. Now, I don't foresee any power outs, but there may be. So, just letting you know, if I disappear, just give me a few moments and I will come back. Just from, grim past experience, I know that it's something that can happen. But in any case, thank you so much. I welcome you all on board. Today, we're going to do a fun little painting breakdown of a painting I did not record the process of, but I did take a lot of pictures during the process. It's the Venice Rooftops painting. Should have had the final thing prepared here. Let me show it to you as we speak. I have the whole slides, but I want to show you just the final result here next to me. So this one, with these paintings, I often find myself not filming because they're so demanding, they require so much focus and attention that I just end up being really pulled into them. Those end up being the best paintings. I was very lucky with the OCD painting that I filmed, and also it turned out really well. But I guess, yes, John, hey, hope you're well. Thank you so much. I hope you're well too. We had a really nice time in Crete, and Greece was great. Just what we call in Hebrew beten gav. It means just stomach back. It means you flip-flop like a burger because you're just spending time in the pool, in the sun, or in the beach. So it was great. And it was well-needed rest, as these vacations tend to be. It's always strange going back, even if it's just a week or a couple of days. As soon as the vacation ends, I go right back into the thoughts of, okay, here's the things I need to do. Here's what I have to take care of. Even things, let me test the audio for a second here. Even things that I'm not worried about usually, I end up worrying a bit near the end of the vacation. That's just how it is. And good morning to you too, John. Wait, I missed your last name, John Horkler. Yes. Hey, Pascaline. Hope you're doing well. Isabel Seidners, hi from Ontario, Canada. Thank you for being here. H, how are you doing? Anisha, hi from Vancouver. Carrie, hope you're doing well. Struggling with a beach house commission piece. Oh, man, yeah. Feel free to send me a picture. I'll take a look. I'm going to work on a beach painting soon, too. I'm inspired to do something like that. With the nice smooth transitions. I finished a desert scene today. Let me show you. Everyone who's here is getting the scoop. I haven't shared this anywhere yet. Yes, I added a bit of paint here, a bit of blue. I may edit it more. I'm not sure yet. But for now, I'm quite happy with how it turned out. But yeah, feel free to send it over. I'm always curious to see. Ekaterina, how are you doing? Hope everything is well. John, okay, thank you for the weather forecast. So far, so good. Right now in Ohio, yeah, a lot of. I think it's a heat wave. I think they even named it. It's not only here, but it's gonna hit a lot of places. Probably Europe. I don't know if the U.S. I'm not sure. Jill, how are you doing? Thank you for being here. Twixie, hello from Chicago. Thank you for being here. Deborah, hi from Minnesota. Gary, thank you so much for the kind words. John, hi, you said it right. A lot of people butcher it. Yeah. Horkler, yeah, that's easy. What do they say? Horchler? I'm so used to. I don't know. I think just being at least bilingual solves a lot of pronunciation problems. I've never had these issues. I usually pronounce things correctly the first time. Even words I've never seen before, it's my first time seeing. I don't know. Somehow it ends up working out the first go. Should have participated in something like a spelling bee but we don't have those, by the way. I don't know why. J. Thomas Art, hello. Good morning, Liron. Hey, hope you're doing well. Alexa, hello. Brazen Spirituality, that's a cool username. That's really cool. Former Minnesotan in Texas, cool. Katerina, I'm great. It's getting kind of hot here, but I'm fine with it. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. I heard it's going to be 40 degrees Celsius in the next couple of days, so we're watching out for it. The thing is, everyone turns on their air condition and then you get power outs. That's what happens. Marjorie, Liron, so glad you were able to go to Greece. Where do I go to copy your references? Oh, I'm taking pictures everywhere. Actually, this time I didn't get too many good new reference photos. But yeah, I usually try to, if I see something interesting, take a picture. I like having a variety of options. So if I want, if I want to maybe paint something that's more zoomed in, right? So if I see a really nice flower or something like that, I may snap a photo real close. If I see a car I like, I may take a really zoomed in photo. If I see a nice beach view, I'll take a photo, you know, a bunch of things. So yeah, I love your sky and the desert scene. Yeah, the sky turned out really well. I actually filmed it, so everyone will be able to see this process. I don't remember. I think I filmed the opaque paint as well. Yeah, I filmed all of these final details. And the sky and the background, that was a big deal for me. It was a lot of careful planning to make sure you get the little, you know, bokeh zoom in, zoom out of focus effect here. It was an important thing for me to get, as well as a bit of a more neutral, grayed out background, becoming warmer the closer it is. We have a really nice desert here down south, so a couple of hours south that you can see crazy views like this one. Thank you so much, Marjorie. $1 dead. Hi from Alabama. Thank you for being here. Lollipop Strawberry, hello. It's been a while, probably because I haven't streamed. So thank you for being here. Resin Spirituality, we're expecting heat index of 115 Fahrenheit here today. Oh yeah, that's crazy. Let's see what's 115 Fahrenheit in Celsius. Yeah, that'll be about 46 degrees Celsius. That's insane. That's just something that doesn't really happen. You know, here if it's really, really hot, 36 degrees, you know, outside in the sun. That sounds tough. Lollipop Strawberry, what colors are you going to be using today, and what type of equipment are you using? Yeah, so I'm not going to paint. I'm just going to share with you a process in the pictures. In terms of colors, this is my kind of favorite way of doing things. I'm using both a cool and a warm version of all my primary colors. So it'll be the usual phthalo blue, French ultramarine, lemon yellow. I just have that. Though I am introducing a bit of orange, so that'll be cadmium red light. It looks orange, very bright, very opaque. And then quinacridone rose and pyrrole scarlet for the reds. That's pretty much it. Everything is mixed from those. Now, you will see in a second, I'm going to talk about this in detail, but the windows on the way other side of the painting, those were painted opaquely, and you can probably tell if you have a bit of an eye for this. Let me get the painting. I can point on it directly. I'll show you. Yeah, that'll be a little easier. So these here, right? These rooftops, these windows, sorry, were painted with opaque paint. So the way I like to usually do it is, and by the way, you'll notice these two have very similar color schemes because it's just the same colors I'm always using. But yeah, the way I tend to do this is I'll use a bit of designer's gouache and I'll add into it just a tiny bit of blue, or you know, whatever color I've been using anyway, and I create this nice little grayed out version that I can paint over and bring back some. It's not really highlights; it's just light parts in the shadow. You know, if that makes sense. But yeah. In terms of equipment, nothing special really. It's all the same. But I can dive deeper on some of those. If you're curious, it's just my normal palette is the one I've been using for this one. Usual brushes really. For the desert scene, I actually used this Michael Soloviev brush. He actually sent me this with a sketchbook and a bunch of stuff. He's the brand ambassador of Daniel Smith, among being a great painter. So he sent me this. I'll probably, by the way, be tackling this scene again. I have used that brush I just showed you for that. I have a few things I'd like to improve in the next kind of iteration, if that makes sense. Hey, Sujanith, hope you're doing well. Brazen Spirituality, I take many pictures with my phone. all the time to hopefully get a best reference. But if that fails, in the hopes that I can make a composition using several pictures together, yeah, that can happen too. Or what I'll like to do is this is great for scenes like the beach. Maybe you have a couple of boats. I'll change it up and move the boats to where I want them to be, but I'll keep everything else pretty much the same. That's something I like to do as well. John, it was in the 60s the other night, and the tree in front of the house are dropping off and on. I don't know why. Yeah, the weather is going crazy. Tway, hello, hope you're doing well. So let's get to it. Here you go. You can see the first. Why am I to the side? Let me fix that. You can see here the first stage. This is the sketch stage, of course. Pretty straightforward, actually. I traced the whole thing. I didn't feel like drawing it. You know, it's so full of details. Just felt like, honestly, tracing it. Something like this I drew freehand. You're going to see in the process as well. But this kind of a scene, I really wanted to make sure I'm fully accurate. And by the way, the picture is a picture I took on our visit to Venice. There was this beautiful kind of a structure. I don't know, is it the theater? Something like that, with a spirally staircase. If you search any of the main attractions there, and you go beyond, of course, the top 3, if you spend some time in Venice, this is one of the things that pop up. It's a nice old theater, and it has this spiral staircase, and you go up. It's a beautiful vista. I actually should show you the original reference photo. I don't think I even shared it there. Let's see here. So this is going to be in painting project, Venice Rooftops. There is the reference. So I stayed quite loyal to the source, and you can see this here. There we go, both. I do hope the painting is a little more interesting than the reference photo. That's what I always aspire to. But yeah, I took a large picture. This is actually cropped. You get to see more of the rooftops around it. Carrie, I was just going to say, how did you draw that looking at... that makes me go mad. Yeah, I've drawn things like this, more complex before freehand. It's just for the sake of efficiency. I like to sometimes trace these things. The thing is, I trace it over my computer screen, so like a light box, and that way I have a good control over what lines I want to show, what lines I don't. Because if you look at the sketch, it's not like I sketched each and every single line. Actually, I left quite a bit out, but I did include every sharp transition in value and every sharp transition in color. That's usually the thing that guides me. As long as I have these two things, I'll include them. If it's something a little more of a smooth transition, a bit more of something I don't care much about showing the distinction, I won't. But that's usually how I approach this. Sujanith, Liron, if asked, which is your top favorite subject in watercolor, like cityscapes, landscapes, or still lives, and why? You know, it's an interesting question. Because, you know, I can find stuff I like about every different subject. These kinds of scenes, I really love the strong, sharp contrasts and lights and different elements in them. You know, the rooftops and the sharp shadows, I love that. But I will say that even when I paint a car, I really enjoy other aspects of it. So it's very hard to point out a favorite subject. You know, if you put a gun to my head and tell me you only have to paint one subject your entire life, it'll be hard. And I may decide on cityscapes just because there's a lot of variety in them. I feel like there's millions different opportunities, whereas with landscapes, you do end up with some common patterns, right? Of course, there's beaches, seascapes, you know, forests and so on, but there are just, I think there's, funny enough, more possibilities in human-made things like cities as opposed to a landscape. But it would be very hard because to me it's more about the balance. If I do too many of these, I'll have to go back to something more organic. If I do too much organic, I'm looking for the sharp details, you know? So it's always that contrast between subjects that makes me happy, right? But the overall thing I love when there's interesting light and shadow patterns. That's my favorite thing, and I can paint anything that has that, you know? John, you did good. I cannot tell what one's real life. Oh, thank you. Could you give us the reference? Yes, here you go. Oh, would you actually like the picture itself? I mean, yeah, sure, I can. I don't think I upload it. I can do it later and add a comment maybe and remind me if I forget. Perhaps that'll be better. But yeah, I haven't uploaded it anywhere because I didn't have to. I didn't do a tutorial on this. Brazen, I'm sorry I missed a bit where you said something about grayscale. I don't remember. Did I say anything about grayscale? Not sure. Remind me again, maybe if you remember another detail. So, Janith, do you think it's better to stick and practice to one genre? No, not at all. It will depend. You know, if you're obsessed with one thing, go ahead and paint it as much as you want. But if you're pulled in different directions, it's worth trying them because there's a reason you're pulled in different directions. You know, you got it, Carrie. Pascaline, what are the colors you use the most? I would say French Ultramarine and Phthalo Blue. I can't finish a painting without them. But I do use a lot of Lemon Yellow. I do use a lot of Quinacridone Rose. Very useful colors. Very boring, though, my answer to that question. It always is. So, Janith, I find Cityscapes most tough. You're a king of perspective. Thank you. Yeah, but I did trace this, so I don't know if that's an example of me being the king of perspective. But yeah, I could, you know, with enough patience, get a sketch of this. But thank you so much. So if we go to the sketch once again, pretty straightforward. Can I zoom in here? I'm not sure. I can just make this like that. So that's zoomed in. It's just for you to see a bit more of some of the details. But again, traced. You'll see I dropped like a couple of windows. I didn't even sketch one of the windows there. This one. Right here, you'll see I completely omitted it in the sketch, just the bottom part. I sometimes do that almost to give room for the painting to breathe. I find that if I deliberately drop a few of the details, something interesting happens where I almost feel more free with the paint. That's how my mind works in a way. Thank you so much, Zenful Painter. But not everyone's mind gonna work that way, but mine is. Sometimes I need that empty space. Same for this one. It's a nice, interesting parallel that I just finished today. I left a lot of these details empty so that I can fill them in with paint. At the end of the day, I find that's a good way to compel myself to show more with the paint, you know? I'm thirsty. It's hot today. So let's move on to the next stage. It's going to be the first wash. So another nice one where I felt like I really nailed it the way I wanted it to look. A couple of things to note. One thing I kind of messed up is I did want to leave these chimneys here a little yellow, and you'll notice that the red really penetrated into the yellow area. You can see it in the scan right here, right where my finger is. So that's one thing. Other than that, one of my lucky streaks here is this thing. Right here, this the transition to the blue shadow, that really worked out well. That is something I'm very pleased with. The blue shadow on the lower kind of third. I did it a bit wet and wet. You can tell it's a bit blurry, but it works really well. I approached this in a way of patches. I started with the red up top, then I moved into a bit of yellow, a bit of blue, red, and I tried to not tilt the paper too much so that it was relatively flat. So even though my table's at an angle, I put a piece of tape here and made it level so that the paint doesn't move too much around, just stays pretty much in its place. And I tried just putting the closest color in, but a pure version of it. So pure yellow, pure red, pure blue, without mixing too much. Maybe, 10%, 20% other paints. But yeah, now the one thing that really scared me is this area right here. Hopefully you can see it. Too green, kind of a yellowy green. You can see it in the scan here. That chimney, it's right this line all the way here, somewhere around here. That felt really bad to me. Felt like I might have messed up some parts of it because it was the phthalo leaked too much into the yellow. But it ended up working well, and you will see how in the next couple of stages. Of course, you will see how it ends up. All of these things, the first wash doesn't matter as much. It's a great place to start establishing your temperatures and the beauty of the colors and all of that and the general mood. But other than that, a lot of the work comes in the next stages. And I do have to admit, I thought this one won't work until the very last 20% or so. You'll see why in a second. Sujanith, do you have a video on warm and cool shadows? Actually, I have the perfect video for you, so I would recommend after this live stream you check it out. Warm, cool, watercolor, cityscape, Liron. It's an old one, but to this day, it's I think one of my best videos. Not sure why. Somehow it works. Okay, the title is "Use Warm and Cool Colors," and let me share it with you. So this is the link you want to follow. There we go. Check it out afterwards. For anyone who wants, if you want a similar kind of subject matter, very similar, that's the video for you. It's now that I look at it, it's such a similar approach to how I painted this one. So if you're looking for something, to scratch that itch after you see pictures of this process, you can see an actual video of a very similar one. A bit less complex, but still quite complex. Henny, thank you so much for the kind words. John, I don't do this, but if you do a spot all in there, the paper, oops, it's obstructing. The paper will get really wet. This is water painting, but I'm just thinking of a piece of paper. All in there. I'm not sure what you mean, John, but I can tell you that I've done a lot of weird things with water and paint that ends up really warping or playing around with both the paper and how it flows, which can drive me crazy sometimes. Zenful Painter, I love how your colors have become more vibrant over time. Yeah, I've found a way to bring it back. It really, in the beginning, I'd get very vibrant colors, and then I kind of lost that, and then I regained it. I think it's honing my own taste, of what I like. The more it's clear to me, the easier it gets to to bring it into paper, in a way. Yes, definitely do a Katarina and Sujanith, you got it. Clarice K, thanks. I needed that information as well. Awesome. Chimefti, hi Liron, said that you missed Saloniki. Yeah, and sorry, I saw your email too, by the way. I read it. I just haven't responded yet. I would have responded if we would come to Saloniki. I would definitely let you know. It's just that I knew we won't be there. Amazing painting, video on warm and cool shadows would be helpful. Thank you so much. And again, sorry, I saw your email like a day after you sent it and read. Very often I'll read the email soon, but until I make some time to reply to emails, I won't reply. So my apologies once again for that. And I would definitely have let you know if we were there. I just knew we were going to fly to Crete instead, which was wonderful, by the way. The food was good. John, the window that where you're talking about. Oh, I see what you mean. Yes. If you do a spot, the paper. Yes. No, I get what you're saying. You meant where I just left it, right? Yeah. That really will depend on my mood. It's so interesting. So let me show you the next stage in this one. And that is starting to... Okay, you can see a zoom out, which is nice too. Just gives you a clearer view of the colors, because they dried quite light. In these scans, sometimes the colors appear to be a little stronger than they are. This first wash is quite light. It's also quite strong, surprisingly. Like this value here. That's the first wash still showing. I haven't changed anything, right? That yellow wall. So it is quite strong for a first wash. The roofs also, it's quite a strong red, but still dried quite light. So yeah. So here it is. Maybe a bit more of an accurate impression. And the state of my palette and everything. And oh yeah, I forgot one important detail. You'll see right here there's a cup of water. That actually has a use. It helped me quite a bit with the first wash. So I mentioned this before, but not too many times. I see the video is a little choppy. Hopefully the audio at least is okay. Not sure what happened. Let me know if it gets worse. But yeah, the glass of water, the plastic, whatever glass of water, it has what do you call that? I keep forgetting. Um, that thing, I have it right here. I forgot the word for it. The thing that helps. Okay. Take it out and show you, but glycerine. Yeah, sorry. I didn't even find a word, but I remembered glycerine. I poured a bit of glycerine there, like this high, into the glass, then filled it with water, mixed it. The glycerine helps it stay wet for longer because sometimes in our climate it dries really fast, and that thing really helped with the first wash, just to keep things wet for longer. It helped with the flow. Now it will behave a little differently, so it takes a bit of getting used to, but it does lengthen the wetness time. So this is something you can do. I'm still experimenting with it. Just glycerine, mix it in with the water, and use that, especially for washes where you really want to maintain good flow. Now, because the water stays wet for longer, differences in wetness can also lead to more cauliflower, so you have to be a little more careful. So if something is drying much, much slower than another section, if you haven't used the glycerine or you use much thicker paint, the difference between them may become stronger, and then you'll get some background. So it's something to be aware of. Brazen spirituality. Do you stretch your paper? And if so, what method do you most prefer to reduce warping? Do you also remove surface sizing or leave it alone before starting a piece? Yeah, I don't do any of that. I do pre-wet sometimes the paper on both sides. If I'm willing to do a first wash that is wet and wet, I will do that. It's just like stretching. You just wet both sides of the paper, put it on the wooden plank thing, and it will stick to it. It will help the paper just stretch out a little, and then less warping happens and more time. That's the most important thing, more time to work. But even then, I've been getting mixed results. Something I still haven't gotten the hang of fully, so we'll probably play around with that more in the future. But yeah, that's how I do it, at least. Sujanith, Liron, what is your opinion about Yongchen's style in watercolor, not loose or tight? Yeah, I wouldn't put Yongchen's style in any of these categories because some of his work looks very detailed, some of it looks looser. But I will say his work is really good. He's really a master at almost replicating what he sees very accurately, very, very accurately, especially from afar in the looser pieces, as you mentioned. Some of them are a little looser. Could be seen like in the middle, but yeah, he's like a scanner. It's crazy. Technique is really on point. And even when he makes something that is perceived as a mistake, he always knows how to correct it. So yeah, I love his work. I think the educational value in his videos is through the roof. Really, really good. Henny, which are your current go-to colors to make your darkest color? I've only ever used ultramarine and sepia burnt umber, I guess, but I want to add variants now. Yeah, it's usually a mix of all my primary colors, honestly. So I'll use quinacridone rose, lemon yellow, and phthalo blue or French ultramarine. Some other mixes that I like using is carbazole violet and lemon yellow. That's a quick way of getting a relatively neutral dark because the yellow and violet are opposite on the color wheel, so they neutralize real nice. What else to get quick darks? That's usually it, I do have the quinacridone burnt orange, I think it is, by Daniel Smith. That works really well as well with French ultramarine. It's a bit green. It's a bit of a green gray, but it works. That's usually how I do it. And sometimes I'll just place within the wet area just a very thick quinacridone rose all in its own, because quinacridone rose is it has the potential of being very dark as a red. So that's a good go-to. Almost like Alvaro Castaneda likes to put a bunch of paints one next to another in the shadows. I like to do that as well. So yeah. Brazen, oh, froze for a second. Yeah, sorry about that. Clarice, I'm going to watch on my television. Yes, the big screen. Zenful Painter, wouldn't it work the same if you wet the back of the paper instead of glycerine? It's very different. I mean, you could wet it with water mixed with glycerine. That would give you even more time. But any of these will compound. So if you do both, it'll last longer. It's not the same, though, because the glycerin really lengthens the time it takes for the paint to dry, whereas the pre-wetting just makes the paper wet for longer, if that makes sense. So when I'm using glycerin, okay, here's a good example for you. Glycerin water is not just for pre-wetting, it's also for painting. Any of the colors I mix using the water with the glycerin. So I'll mix that red that I put up top here, I'll mix it with the water that has glycerin in it and put it on the paper. Then the yellow, same thing. I'm actually using the water with the glycerin as water. So a bit different. Henny, curious from a recent convo with a friend, Liron, what are your thoughts on posting, publicizing your art if you don't intend to sell it? I mean, why not? If you want to share it, even if you don't intend to sell it, just go for it, do whatever you want. The fact that you post it doesn't mean you have to sell it. And the fact that you sell it doesn't mean you have to post it, by the way. There's a lot of different avenues for selling. So these are two different things, and you can do either, both, none, whatever you want, really. Sierra, do people use glycerin a lot? I'm new to watercolor and I've never heard about this. Yeah, because not a lot of people talk about it. So no, not a lot of people use it. AV Vermilion, I'm getting into watercolors. It's quite unforgiving. Is it good to go loose when starting out? I would paint the way I'm compelled to. If you feel like going looser, go for it. Anything you do will teach you. So when you're just getting started, you have no strategy, you have no plan, you have nothing. All you have is the experience you're building on a day-to-day basis. So what I would actually do is, if I have something that I naturally gravitate towards, I'll go with that. That's how I got started. That's the things I did. I once showed my paintings to someone who's very experienced here, and he said to be more humble and paint easier things when I'm getting started. Maybe he was right. He knows his stuff. He knows how to paint. But I'm always very careful with this kind of advice, because maybe if I went that other route, I would never come to the point that I am now. So there really aren't any rules, in my opinion, to that, honestly. The fact that you feel it's unforgiving is very natural, too. Once you get the hang of it, it will be very forgiving. Let me just say that. John, is that a painting, or you're painting stuff off to the side? So you mean that thing right over here? You're painting stuff off to... This thing is just a piece of test paper that I was using. I don't know if you saw anything behind me here, but if you have, then yeah, I have a bunch of paintings laying around, but actually not right now. They're not in the view right now. Laura, good morning, afternoon, everyone. Yes, hey, Laura, thank you so much for being here. It's been a while because I haven't streamed in a while. So let's move on to the next process. I do want us to look at this entire thing. So here's how I got started with the second wash. So the way I like to do it is I like to find what's my next best. Yeah, John, to the side, it's just test paper. I always have it handy. I have it on the desk right now, because I always like to test things on a separate piece of paper before I'm doing it on the finished one, to make sure I don't mess it up or have to really work hard to fix it in real time. Just woke up. Don't worry, you got it. I'm worse when I just wake up. Trust me. Good morning from Texas. Cool. I don't remember Brazen if you mentioned... Oh, you mentioned Texas before. Okay, so it's not new information. Just for Laura. If you look at this is my final washes here, pretty much. What you see here especially, that's what you see in the picture. I didn't glaze over this again. I did add a bit of details to this section right here. And of course to these details, but for the most part I kept this one quite the same. One thing I did do quite a bit is using this lovely blending brush that John sent me a while ago, the Royal & Langnickel Zen brush. I did end up smoothing out some of the edges. If you compare these edges to what you see on screen, these are a little smoother. I used that brush to do it after the fact. Takes some time getting used to. Not the easiest brush to use, but once you do, it's quite useful because things can be fully dry and you can still soften edges with them. The way I like to do this is I'm looking for a big shape of shadow I can push to be darker. hopefully without too much variance in it. So one of the things I notice is I can start with the red up there, connect it all the way around, this red right up here, connect it all the way around to the yellow, right? You see how it went through the yellow and into that gray blue. This is where I stop this wash, and then I continue to this yellow wash here. So these two aren't connected here. It's two separate sections. And then I kind of stopped, and you can see, and I love seeing these stages. Of course, I did add some shadows on the rooftop. One thing you'll notice is the rooftop itself was left as the first wash in what you see right now, the scan, the picture on the screen. But here, I went over it. It needed another layer, if that makes sense. So that's how I tackle it. Usually I'll just work top to bottom or a large section. If the large section is in the bottom, I'll start with the bottom. But I like to push the painting more and push the painting a lot as far as I can with one smooth wash, especially if it's in the background or kind of not the focal point itself. The reason I do this mostly is just efficiency. It's just effective to paint these big shapes together, but you don't have to. One more thing I wanted to direct your attention to. What was it? I forgot now. But yeah, I added, all of these details on the roof, all of that. Oh yeah, the windows. I did the windows wet and wet. Still, while this was still kind of moist, I put in the windows. It's a matter of timing. You get it with experience, Henny, did you do a prep painting for this before the finished piece? No, this was my first attempt. I treated this as the prep. So worst case, if I mess it up, this was the prep, and then I can move on to another one, if it makes sense. Same for this, I treated this as a finished piece, but I may do another one. We'll see. Though I kind of like it. I'll post it after the live stream. I'll post it on Instagram. Ellen, it is 7:34 where I am, and I'm getting ready for work, and I will be streaming this on the way there. Thank you so much. I hope to keep you company. Hopefully I will still be streaming. Not sure how long it'll take you, but yeah. Brazen Spirituality. How did you make the windows such a light, bright blue on the shadow side of the building, top right corner? How did you make the windows such as a light, bright blue? Yeah. So what you see in this wash, let me see if I show it in the next wash. Not yet. Oh, it's nice to see the transition between these stages. Same goes for this one probably. Let me rearrange the order here, if I can. Yeah, I can do this. Okay, so I want to show you. Will it? Okay, never mind. The way I did it was I mixed designer's gouache, which I have here. You can see it's quite dirty. I mixed that with any color I want. Watercolor. So this is gouache. I mix it with watercolor. I mix it on the palette. It's very dry. It's a very thick mixture. Takes time getting used to, but I put that on the palette, on a dry area on the palette, and I add just a bit of blue, in this case, and maybe a touch of water just to help it flow a bit, and then I just paint it, dry on dry, light on dark, and bring back those windows. I knew as soon as I saw these windows that that's how I'll paint them. I knew it. It made so much sense. Sometimes it makes sense to paint things opaquely, even in watercolor. At the end of the day, these are just tools, and they're meant to help us achieve the goal. And I don't like to marry myself to a process of, just light to dark, just dark to light, just transparent. No, I'll use the tools however, in whichever way serves me well. But that's how I did it, if that makes sense. You will see this done in many of my videos. So you can actually find, let me see if I can just point you to a specific recent video where I show this, because there's quite a few of these. Well, I do it abundantly in the latest video, the watercolor advice if you're hypnotized by the reference photo, that boat. The last video about the boat, you see exactly how I do this. I'll mix gouache with opaque paint quite freely. So I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Ellen, I love this painting so much. I saved it. Such good light study. Thank you. AV Vermilion. This is a daunting subject matter. It depends. It really will depend on what you like and what you prefer. To me, it's really fun. It's something I really enjoy painting. I love zooming in on all of the details and bringing them to life. But I can see how for many people it will be just not fun. Then in that case, don't paint it. Is the gouache white? Yes, it is a white. It's fully white. Let me see. It says Permanence A, Series 1. It's actually called Permanent White. That's the name. Permanent White. Let's see if there's a pigment here. Pigment is PW6. Pigment White 6. I don't know if you'll be able to see. There we go. So that's the one I want to use. I have this, and I do the exact same process with my watercolor. Let me show you. I have this more opaque watercolor paint. This you can barely see because the tube is so squished, but that's Shinhan PWC John Brilliant. Beautiful paint. You can find everything in my gear page. If you just go to freewatercolor.com/gear, Gear, you'll see these. I use them the same. I find that the designer's gouache is more liquid. It's easier to work out of the tube. It has more flow, whereas the Shinhan PWC Jaune Brilliant is a little thicker. It's a little harder to work with. It requires a bit more water. But yeah, I'll use the Jaune Brilliant when I need a yellowy highlight, and I'll use the designer's gouache when I need a cool or neutral white. And in this example, these windows are quite neutral cool, which is why I don't want to bring in a warm opaque paint, if that makes sense. That's how I think about these things. You got it, Brazen Spirituality. Alan, I recently made a piece and used gouache for some really thin highlights too. Yeah, it's great fun. John, Google good morning if you're talking to I don't know what you mean. Google good. Should I Google it? Henny, do you have a vid specifically on creating stark contrasts in values? Love the way the shadows pop on the building in the back. Yeah, so your question, how long does this painting take? It took a full day's work. I would guess around 4 hours, maybe 5. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it was intense, these 5 hours. As for stark contrast in value, you know, I think the video about realism is the most suitable one. I'm sure you saw it because it got a lot of views, actually, but I think it's called... yeah, Watercolor Realism is easy with this trick. That's a clickbaity title, but it's actually a true. It's actually a true title. I do show exactly that. I'll link it below. I'm sure most of you have seen it, but it goes into that stark contrast quite in detail. So contrast. This one should show in the chat in a second. Let's see here. John, please leave a like, everyone. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you can drop a like on the video, would really appreciate it. And hopefully I managed to edit this one in time for you for Saturday. If not, it's going to be Tuesday's video next week. I'll do my best. Hey, Abir, how are you doing? Thank you for being here. Ellen, did the 5 hours include the sketching? You know, I think no, excluding the sketching. The sketching took about 15 minutes, something like that. But have in mind, I traced. Had I not traced, you can easily make this 30, 35 minutes. But yeah, not including the sketching, just the painting time. A lot of it, though, is not just time spent on paper painting, but thinking. I'm including time where I'm staring at it and trying to figure out the next move, and sometimes I'll mix and I'll try and see it, and I'll, you know, all of it together. But, you know, out of that, maybe 3 hours is painting, pure paint, just painting, just putting brush to paper. But yeah, something like in the ballpark, you know. However, Ellen, actually, this question makes sense. I'm not sure if that's what you're alluding to, but a lot of people have issues with sketching. I've seen this in some of the meetups that we've done here locally of doing some plein air. A lot of people take very, very long to sketch. Very long to sketch. I'm not sure why, but I've always been a bit of an anomaly in that case. I'm drawing relatively fast. I'm a fast drawer. So I'm not a good example. My 30 minutes would probably take a lot of people an hour and a half. It's that big of a difference. I'm a very fast sketcher. One more thing, it's not about necessarily sketching skills. It's about, and this is important, it's about knowing what you as a painter need for maximum enjoyment of the painting stage. So the idea of knowing to drop a window here or there, to show some details, but to hint at others without spelling it out too much in order not to constrict your freedom in the painting stage, if that makes sense, right? So you as a painter learn what works best for you. Now, because I know really well what works best for me, I know exactly where I can drop some details, where I can cut some corners, where I can hint at things very symbolically and I'll understand what I meant by it. So a lot of this contributes to the efficiency and effectiveness of my drawing. And not everyone's going to be in that situation, but once you build some experience, you can be in that situation. To me, I've always been a very speedy sketcher. But when I became more familiar with what I need as a painter too, it became even better. The sketch becomes one more step in serving the final vision. And not just a technical, let's get all the lines onto the paper, if that makes sense. Lago, hi Liron, greetings from Brazil. Thank you for being here. Much appreciated. Ellen, also waiting for it to dry. No, I don't think I include that time. Sometimes I'll let it dry 30, 40, 50%, then I'll use a hair dryer. So that's relatively fast. Henny, sorry, I'm a bit confused. Is this Simplify course on a YouTube playlist or separate standalone course like the frustration-free watercolor course? Yes, it is a full course I have on YouTube for free for your enjoyment. Check it out. There's a playlist called How to Simplify in Watercolor, something like that. You have a full course free at the level of my frustration-free watercolor course, probably as good as that you can check out. Yes, it's a separate thing. Abir, what's your suggestion to me about what subjects to choose because I'm new to the medium? I would say anything that you enjoy looking at that captures your attention. A lot of people look at what others paint and that's where they go. But that's a very limited approach. That's a very limited approach because maybe those subjects don't talk to you. They don't really motivate you or move you to feel anything. So if I were just to paint cityscapes and landscapes, I would be really bored. I actually really like to paint cars, which I don't see many people paint and focus on as much as I am. I love painting, light and shadow and very intricate details with strong contrasts. It really is about searching the things that bring you joy, as opposed to looking for the thing that others paint or that's the most common thing to paint or a good thing for beginners. That's not so good sometimes. So anything that you have some kind of fascination with, I would start there and see how you like it. Brazen Spirituality. Do you have a point where you try to erase your pencil or do you leave it? I'm in the camp of leaving it fully, unless it really is in the way. Like one time I painted this scene where I planned for a tree, so the sky has this big scribbly pencil line on it, where the tree should have gone, and I decided I don't want the tree there. So I tried erasing some of it. Once you paint over it, you probably know it's very hard to erase. Once there's water on it, it almost seals especially paint, it almost seals the pencil. So I don't think I even succeeded, but the painting still looks good. So yeah, I barely erase the pencil. I usually leave it. John, we'll do on the way. Oh, by the way, if you do vacations, do you say, "Oh, that's cool, I must sketch this when I get back home"? Oh, I did not see that. I rarely have the desire to paint that same moment. On vacation, I'm pretty much checked out of anything that is. I don't even want to call it work, but Anything that requires that kind of effort in a way, and the effort is really fun and engaging, but still, it's very rare for me to be so moved by something to want to paint it on the spot. I do, however, sometimes I'll take the picture and I'll look at it really good for a few seconds and remember what it feels like, so that once I'm home and I do feel like painting it, I'll have that feeling from back then that I saw it, if that makes sense. That's something I do enjoy doing from time to time, just to really prepare mentally for the moment I will paint it. Let's move on to the next one. I'll continue reading your messages. So here is a bit more developed, right? All the way down to the lower kind of quarter fifth. Same process, just a lot more of it, right? So again, if you look at this stage, all of the front building wasn't there, and then slowly but surely it's there. Those shingles were a real nightmare. A lot of wet and wet. I'll put water, and then I'll put the shadow on the left side, and I would do this for every shingle line that you see there. So just know that's how I did those. Tambor artwork, thinking takes longer than painting for me. Sometimes for me too. Don't think it's unnatural at all. Sometimes you spend more time thinking. Ellen, I sketch quite fast as well, but I find sketching for watercolor can be tricky because it has to have cleaner lines, and I need to know where the highlights go. Yeah, I'll usually be very much guided by the light and shadow, but where there is a highlight, it is a problem. If it's a very light, bright, kind of smooth sun in the sky and it's a smooth transition, doing a big ugly pencil line there is a big problem. One thing that helped me is to become more used to navigating my way on paper without lines, if that makes sense. It is totally possible, takes practice, but it is doable. Learning to really navigate the scene without any guidelines. You could paint on an empty piece of paper. I've done that before. The results were very interesting. It is more possible than something. You don't need to draw any line if you don't want to, by the way. Just putting it out there. Henny, oh, right, the Realism course is the standalone. Yeah, the Realism course, I don't know if I'd call it a standalone. It's another course. It's actually the first link in the description box if anyone wants to get it. There's going to be, if you already own the Frustration-Free Watercolor course, hit that link. If you don't, hit the other link, because that way I know exactly what kind of email correspondence to send in the future. So if you haven't checked out the Realism course, which is a little more akin to this kind of a painting process, honestly, check it out. First link in the description box below will really show you how to just get that realistic sense in place, mostly black and white, getting the values, getting the edges, which is a topic that's not discussed enough, I think. So yeah, it's, I wouldn't even, like, every course I have is kind of a standalone course, if that makes sense. But yeah. Abir, thank you for suggestion. You got it. Angela, can I ask your favorite brushes? Do you have the list up somewhere? Yeah, if you go to Free Watercolor, the URL I mentioned earlier, Free Watercolor /gear. I'm going to post a link here. You'll see my most commonly used ones, but just like everything, this is a really living, breathing thing. So this changes. Tools and supplies. I'm sending it into chat right now. Check it out. It really changes. So, I tried out again this one by Michael Soloviev. Really enjoyed this brush. A really nice one. I keep experimenting, so things definitely update with time. But yeah, I would say for the most part, Escoda, Lebenson brushes, those are my go-tos right now. Ellen, I will take that advice and practice some more. I have trouble with shingles too, especially on small paintings. Yeah, I know what you mean. When it's small details, it's hard to begin with. This is like every shingle. Every shingle matters here. I hope you see it well. These were all done wet and wet, pre-wetting, putting. I did rotate sometimes the paper this way, this orientation, so that the paint moves down into the shadowy area of the shingle, if that makes sense, right? So I pre-wet a line and then I just paint this edge here. And I keep doing. I had to repeat it a few times actually because it didn't go dark enough. It was the most significant ordeal in this painting. Let's say it was the most challenging part. Let me look at the reference for a second. I want to check something out. Yeah, okay. It was probably one of the more time-consuming elements of this painting. Angela, thank you. I was on vacation and did the same thing. I took a small sketchbook on my cross bag, and then I took pictures of something if something hit me. Then painted a few things in my downtown in the hotel. Yeah, and the hotel is still high level. I do it back home only. But taking notes, yes. And the fun thing is you can sketch small details from it, zoomed in, just to get the feel for them, and then later on you'll have a better understanding. Just about the realism course. Oh, thank you so much, Andy. Yeah, I think you're in a great spot personally to go for it, because your work really is of that high quality. I think it's high quality. It has still your uniqueness. You haven't lost that. And I think it will help you with scenes like the roller coaster, the one that we talked about via email. I do think I responded with my feedback, right, to the last message you sent. I believe I have. So yeah, it's very useful for these kinds of things. It's, some of these scenes are just more meticulous. They need a bit more planning, a bit more preparation. So yeah. Chibi Versity. Hi, and good day, everyone. Hey, hope you're doing well. So, as you'll see here, one feature I really like about this area is the green windows. That is something I've been really enjoying. And I really wanted to showcase this because you can see it in the original reference photo. They're quite green. And it's very much a characteristic of Venice. These green kind of, I don't know what you'd call these even, because they come in different forms. Sometimes it's a thing you close to completely shut the window. We have blinds that you move and they open and close, but this is a completely different, older kind of blinds, so it's interesting. Marjorie almost missed. Hope to catch up. Yeah, definitely. Marjorie, we were doing a bit of a breakdown of this painting. You'll get to see the next stages all the way to completion. And you can go back and watch the first ones. I think it's interesting to see. Henny, thanks, Liron. Could I please request to merge the purchases under a single email address? Not sure if I had used the same. Yeah, definitely. Did you pay with credit card or PayPal? I think you used credit card because I didn't see a PayPal notification, and I usually do get one. I can definitely take care of that as soon as the stream ends. I can do it now too. It's quite easy, but let me see if I at least see your purchase. Okay, good. I see it. I'll make a note to do it as soon as the stream ends, so I won't forget. I'll just make sure that the one you used for the frustration-free watercolor course is the exact one. So you'll just log in the same way. If you log in now to the freewatercolor.com website, you will see, sorry everyone for taking a moment with this, but if you see both courses there, then it's okay. It's under the same email address. If you don't, I'll make sure to merge them after the live stream. So yeah. And for Marjorie, just real quick, so I've just shown, let's do a quick recap. So I've just shown this painting kind of in progress. This was the sketch stage. Then we did the first wash, right? Here's another version of it from afar. Then I started shading, start top to bottom in large areas as much as I can. And then adding more details. Down to that lower fifth or quarter. Now the next step is where I add that bottom, but this bottom section it's going to happen in a few goes, if that makes sense. So right now what you see is still not the end result, if I'm not mistaken. It's almost done, but not yet. You see some of the details here still aren't present. I also used a bit of that designer's gouache to add some off shingles and kind of interest in detail there. Oh, by the way, I haven't mentioned, yes, I did add also here for these shingles, right? I added quite a bit of orange and little yellow and details just to make it interesting, just like my shingles painting that I did back then. Katerina, details are super tricky for me, but slowly I'm getting used to it now because I'm doing more realism. Yeah, I find details to be the easier stage near the last third of the painting. The more challenging bit for me always is the overall composition, making it look good and sing together as one painting, and the first couple of washes that really establish it. Once it's established, I find the details to be almost a byproduct of that, if that makes sense. But yeah, the details can be a little tricky. I remember when I got started, it was much harder with the details in particular. Yeah, Henny, the roller coaster scene is tough. I would be challenged by it as well. Zeus, which brand will you recommend for artist-grade affordable watercolors? I will go with St. Petersburg or Rosa Gallery. These two, I have a video on both, if I'm not mistaken. Both are great. Rosa Gallery is the newer one for me, and it's perfect. The price is fairly decent. I will say a lot of it will depend on where you live and what you can get locally. I was going to make a joke about Zeus, where Zeus lives, but yeah, if you're living there, I forgot what you call that place. But in any case, it depends. You know, if you're in Europe, US, Asia, you'll find different brands that are more accessible and tend to be a little cheaper. Shinhan PWC is good prices. For more of Asia. What else? You know, I started with Van Gogh. They're good. Not as good as the ones I mentioned, but they're pretty good. My Mary Blue, some people swear by. It's spelled a little funny. My Mary, Maimeri, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah. Ellen, yeah, the small details definitely make an impact towards the end there. What you see here still doesn't have all the windows and the details in the shadow. You'll see that in a second. That really plays off it. Sujanith, can art be the purpose of life? I can't believe it as a purpose unless it's useful to others. I believe you left a comment like that, right? Which I haven't gotten to. Anything can be the purpose of life, you know? Yeah, Rosa made in the Ukraine. Yes, in Ukraine. Rosa made in Ukraine. St. Petersburg made in Russia. Choose your side. I think, yeah, both are good options from a... let's say professional standpoint, from technical standpoint, both are good. I have to admit. And it's very easy to get St. Petersburg here in particular. So I got quite a bit of them. I don't know if that's going to continue being the case. Rosa Gallery is also gettable. I know that's not a word, but it's easy to get. Sujanith, amongst paints, paper, and brushes for watercolor, for which would you spend maximum money? Why? Ooh, I think it would be paper. Because that's really, at the end of the day, your painting is done on the paper. The paper has huge influence on the quality. I've seen wonderful paintings done on pretty much any bed type of art supply, including paper, but paper tends to really enhance it. But you probably need to spend on everything if you're really serious about it, you know. So let's look at the next stage. So be focused, and I'm going to hit the next arrow. Look at this area here, the shadow, okay? This shadow, that's where I want you to look. Bam. So these windows add a lot of context to the shadow. In the previous stage, it's quite a flat thing, and you're wondering, can't I see anything in the shadow? Which is, by the way, a nice... You can do that too. But here you go, with a bit more context. One more thing you'll notice is for that chimney, I ended up covering it with opaque paint to make it less of a glowy yellow. Pay attention to this little chimney. Boom. A little more opaque. I used my Shinhan PWC Joan Brilliant to tone it down a little bit. That's something I don't usually do. This time I decided to do it. And you see some details here on the bottom too. You can see the details here on that kind of a dormer, on the rest of that roof that's close to us. Again, I'm going to go back and forward. So here's the previous version. Take a look at the lower fifth or quarter. Boom. A few more details. A few more shadows added, right? So yeah, that was a major, major one. And now we're ready for the stage where opaque paint comes into play. And you'll see quite a bit of it when it comes to this different details like antennas, wires, whatever, highlights, details in windows, everything pretty much. Especially these kinds of details, I love them. I don't know if you can see. There we go. See all of the white lines next to the windows? You can see it here too in the very close section. I love that. That really tells the story much, much better. Zeus, the problem is I live in Asia. European countries, especially Germany, has the best art supply. So yeah, in Asia you can find a lot of good ones. So you can find Shinhan. PwC is the professional, the artist grade line. You can find Holbein, which people swear by. You have a lot of good options there. So I would go probably for either Holbein or is it Holbeins? I'm not sure. Holbeins or Shinhan, PwC. I don't know if you can get it there, but Paul Rubens is pretty good too. I have the pink Paul Rubens palette. It's great. I'm not sure how easy it is to get in Asia, but that's a good one too. Honestly, as for, life purpose and all of that, I don't think it has to even be useful to anyone. I think you can have art be your life's purpose and everyone hates your art. It doesn't matter, What other people say doesn't really matter in the purest sense. I'm not saying this as motivation. I'm not saying this as what other people say doesn't matter. Don't let it bother you, because that's silly, If it bothers you, it bothers you. But what I'm saying is if you understand that if you gain satisfaction from creating, if you gain lasting satisfaction from it, in the purest sense of these words, others' opinions mean nothing. They really don't. You're having so much fun. It doesn't really matter what other people say. So yeah, it could be in a vacuum almost of not being useful, inspiring, fun for anyone else but you. That's my take on it, at least. Marjorie, for paper, I came to the conclusion that if I was going to glaze, then a good cotton paper is needed. Yeah, definitely. If you're using anything that isn't 100% cotton, be prepared to paint everything the first go. Otherwise, no glazing is possible. Ellen, Shinhan is huge in Korea, and it's mostly what the shops sell. I do highly recommend Holbein. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Misolbu, crazy good painter on YouTube, uses Shinhan, among other cheaper brands too, by the way. Yep, I agree, Ellen. Yep. So, Janith, if that's what you see, that's what you see, Jacqueline, I feel strongly that art is very important. Creating art has purpose. In fact, I create art in my Bible, and it encourages me to love others and care for others. Yes, everyone will make their own, Marjorie, have you tried the Mission Gold primary? Not yet. I'm looking forward to it. It's my it's my next experimentation, because I've been really looking forward to using the Mission Gold. Had we not been on vacation, I'd already use it. I'll probably give it a go in the next painting, actually. In the next version I'll do of this one. That's what I was planning, at least. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that, because I've been hearing about Mission Gold for so long, and really wanted to give them a try. Let me turn off the air condition here. It's kind of killing me. 1 second. There we go. Much better. It was getting way too cold. I'll turn on the fan if I want to anyway. So yeah, that's my goal. Hopefully soon the Mission Gold. Probably the thing I'll try next. Let me turn on the fan. I'll turn it on later. Okay, so for the next step, I'll turn it on now. Give me a second. If you turn it on from the wall thing, you can turn it on with the remote. Don't ask me why. Don't look for the logic there. So, as for the next step, you just be prepared to see a lot of highlights. You do see some of them in the back already, because I started with this section here. But now you'll see all of the bottom. So let's see. Here is the next one. And this is, if I'm not mistaken, the final step before the scan. Yes, it is. So I added a bunch of things here. And the windows too. If you look at this section, this is where I added them. So be focused. Sorry, the mic cut out. Be focused. 3, 2, 1, go. boom, windows, and all of the other details. So this stage, I know a lot of people are scared to paint too many details. I don't feel like I could honestly overdo this stage. It's so fun. I really enjoy it. Actually, let me switch over to the scan because it doesn't matter at this point, right? The scan looks a little better. These details, I love them. These little shadows within the highlights within shadows, I love them. It's one of those things that are very hard to paint. Some highlights are pretty challenging to leave behind, all the time and always be aware of them. And if anything that I did gain that was positive from people like Alvaro Castanet, Joseph Zbukvich, is to use opaque paint quite freely. And you get to see other artists like Ray Balquill who just, they use whatever medium, anything that they, whatever they want. So he's using, was it graphite or something else? I'm not even sure. But just anything they have on hand. And it's just such a fun thing to see because it really gives you the almost freedom to, I would say, get whatever result you're after much more easily. That's the thing. If you're limiting yourself to just a certain medium, you're almost limiting yourself to one or two work processes. And even if you take it creatively in different directions, you end up sometimes being limited. That's the thing. So if you have a result in mind, all I care about is achieving that result, and whatever helps me, and I'll use tons of tools, including gouache, including whatever it is, right? Even pencil lines, whatever, opaque paints in this example. By the way, Henny, I took a look. You made a purchase under the same email address, so all you have to do is log out, log in. You will see the new course there, just under it, to the left, under the lessons of the frustration-free watercolor course. You should see the watercolor realism course. Let me know if you don't, but you should see them. I'm seeing it on my end. It's the same email address, so good job on being consistent. As for, I wanted to show you one more thing with this particular stage. I don't remember what it was. Let's zoom in a bit here just for fun. Let's obstruct everything. Just look at some of the details. There we go. So yeah, to me, this is probably as good as it gets. I love this. I love this result, honestly. I do have paintings that I consider better. I have paintings that I consider worse, but that's a good painting process to me. Something that challenged me greatly. Look at the windows down here. All of these little details. Look at me going back to this stage. No, bars on the windows. The next one, boom, bars. The way I achieved those is, I believe it was with the white gel pen, but the way I did them was very light touch so that it's not too bright, very light touch, and then I take just a normal paper towel and I just smudge it a bit to make the lines lighter. That's how I like to control the value of the highlights. Oh yeah, Eddie. Let me know if you want. You can reset it, or I can reset it on my end if you're having trouble with that. The reset email will come not from my own email address, so you want to look out for that. It may end up in the spam folder. It's gonna be something notifications at ClickFunnels. So if you're having trouble, just let me know and I'll reset it for you. But you should be able to reset it. Jacqueline, I hate when the AC is on because it blows right on me and I freeze, but everyone else wants it. Yep. So luckily, I can turn it off just for this room. So we have a few rooms. One of them always turns, no matter what, you can turn it off together with the living room. And then bedroom, and here we can turn it off. So that's good. I can turn it off just for me. Marjorie, P.S. Let me know how the palette of Mission Gold works with your larger brushes. It is an Ice Cube mini silicone trays. Yeah, I saw it. That's the That's the only downside, but I think it will work out well. Worst case, I'll just transfer them to a different palette and space it out a bit. I think I can, right? Or no, maybe I can't because it's glued to, I'm not sure. I'll have to look. But what I thought was actually just spacing them out a bit. We'll see. I think it should work. I'm not too worried about it. I'll just, worst case, I'll use it for smaller pieces. It should work with the 14 Escoda brushes. It won't work with this big of a brush, right? I won't use it necessarily for huge paintings. But anything else should work. Laura, my first watercolor set was Mission Gold. I was really happy with them. Slowly switched over to Daniel Smith because price per tube was cheaper than the Mission Gold. Okay, yeah. Marjorie, Mission Gold, when at first available, wasn't as expensive as now. Interesting. Yeah, so they gained the reputation. You know, a lot of the products, like even my palette, a lot of the things I bought over the years, even this palette, I think I bought it for cheaper. And I swear, the moment I posted a video of it, it slowly started creeping in price. So maybe it's my fault. But yeah. Gina. Oh, hey, Gina. How are you doing? Good morning. I've been watching you on TV at night lately. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I love making palettes with my Mission Gold. Yep. Yeah, Laura, indeed, things climb in price. So let's switch over to that final version of the painting. Here we go. If you have any questions about this process in particular, feel free to. I'll just make the picture as large as I can here. It's been a fun process. It's one of those that, again, are very hard for me to paint while filming, and being maybe 10% distracted is enough to throw me off with these kinds of works, which is why I haven't filmed it. I did film for you this one, so you will see it probably the next couple of days. Mr. Rainbow 228, how have you been? I've been well. Been to vacation, Crete. Crete? Is it Crete? I don't know how to pronounce it in English. Been there. It's been great fun. Came back in a month and a half. We have another vacation going. So this is a vacation we purchased 2019. Then COVID hit, and we postponed it ever since. We ended up setting it to end of August. So it's gonna be a lot of vacations in a small time frame. But yeah, there you go. That would be to Vietnam. But yeah, I've been good. Yesterday we landed back here from, by the way, yeah, just some chit chat. Yesterday we landed at around, I don't know, I think 5:30, something like that, p.m. And then I wasn't sure if I'll go to train BJJ, but I ended up going. I didn't roll because I was super tired. I thought it would be irresponsible, but I did do the drills and some of the basic stuff. So yeah, I'm doing well. Looking forward to maybe a relaxed weekend. We'll see. But yeah, Laura, love the details in this painting, Liron. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. I really like it too. Oh, yes, one more thing I wanted to tell you. So let's see if I can catch the stage where I did that. Yeah, okay. So look at this shadow here. This is the blue shadow, okay? And look at the edges. This is the before, and this is the after. Again, before. Look at especially this line over here. Look at this, it's blended, right? So this is the before, and this is the after. I went over all of these, and once again blended them with the blending brush that I just had here. There we go. This one. It's a challenging technique, but I feel like this really helped me almost master it fully. You can do it with fully dry paint, which is really fun. I wonder if I can do it even now. Let's see. Yeah, now it's going to be hard. So what I'll usually do is wet the brush just a bit, wipe it on a paper towel, and then use it towards the end of the shape very gently, and then use a bit of a tissue to lift back. And it really does put things in balance, because if we just look at the painting in its entirety from the lens of edges, let's do that. So in the first wash, we don't have any edges, right? It's just that. Now, you do have arguably this edge right here for the blue and yellow, but that's fine. Then we have this background wash with a lot of sharp edges because I didn't blend them. But as the painting progresses, you'll see now here's, again, a bunch of hard edges, but look at what happens next. See, oh yeah, not yet actually. Here, started to blend these edges in the front. Now look at what happens to the edges at the back. See, they're blended. Hard edges, blended edges. Blended edges also for the yellow. So this right here, hard edge, blended edge. And this is actually really important because it has consequences. The edges tell a lot of the story. The main thing with edges is if there's a round object like this bottle of water, you're going to have a relatively smooth transition from light to dark, right? But if it's a harsh edge, that means like this is a harsh edge between the cap and the bottle. It means that it's either a different material or a sharp corner, right? Now there's one more factor with cast shadows. So these are shadows that are cast on the building by another building. The thing is, the farther, let's say this is building 1, wait, let me see. This is building 1, this is building 2. The farther the building that casts the shadow is, the more smooth-edged the shadow that's cast is going to be. So the easiest way to test this out is go to a basketball court, hold the basketball, place the basketball on the ground. You'll see a shadow with sharp edges. Lift on a sunny day, right? Lift it up a bit farther from the ground. The shadow will begin to blur. That's something that happens. The edges begin to blur. The object that casts the shadow, no matter what it is, if I have my mouse here on the table, and right now maybe it'll have a sharp-edged, small, very tiny shadow. When I lift it, the shadow is going to blend more and more. Of course, if there's light from above, right? The shadow is going to become more and more blurry until it almost disappears completely. That's something that if you want to learn more about, in particular, check out the How to Shade book on Amazon. If you search for Liron, How to Shade, you'll find it. I talk about these different phenomena. But the thing is, this shadow here, very important. The parts that are blended are cast by an object that is far away. And our minds understand that. It's very important in order to tell the story. What happens here, this little chimney is casting a sharp shadow because it's close. But the rest of the shadow is cast by something that's farther away. If I'm not mistaken, that's the shadow of the chimney. Let's confirm with the reference. Yes. So it's really important because these shadows tell this story. That's the thing. And the more you can tell the story better, the more accurate the end result is going to be, the more polished, good-looking, interesting, understandable it's going to be. Especially if you're trying to be, representative, paint representationally. Angela, thank you so much for all you do to help us. I have to go, but your painting is beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to wrap up soon. An hour and a half. That's good. Marjorie, my first 24 color palette of White Nights was between $30 to $35. Love the mixing area with the palette. That's a very decent price. Was it half pans or full pans? I'm curious. I think because they do usually full pans. And that's a great price then, I believe. I think, right? I mean, that makes sense. $1 for less than $1 for a pen. Nancy, love the painting, Liron. The sunlight and shadows. Also really like this breakdown analysis. Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering whether to do this as a video or as a live stream, but I think live stream works better for this format. Gina, the 24 tubes are 81 now. They were only 61 last month. I'm glad I got them cheaper. Wow, yeah, that's really pricey. I think they're even pricier here locally. Hey, Hank. Hope you're doing well. Hi, Liron, made it. Listening with intensity. Thank you. I love how you always listen with intensity, Hank. Thank you so much. And yeah, feel free to go back and see the rest of the process afterwards. Much appreciated. Jacqueline, your software is amazing. Which software? Which one do you mean? But thank you so much. The Inker. Hey, did you try South Indian Dasa and Sambar? No, not yet. Not yet. Hopefully I will in the future. Henny, do you have a favorite country to paint? Oh, perfect. Happy you managed to reset a password. No, definitely not country. I mean, I did end up painting so many beautiful views from Italy in general. Venice, Florence. Um, where else? I think I painted a few scenes from Rome too. I did paint a lot of beautiful scenes here locally, like the OCD. That's a local restaurant that's really good, and that's probably one of my best works. Most of the cars, based on photos I took here. So yeah, it's really hard to tell. I will say there's something about, specifically the Italian cityscapes that attract me, especially in maybe not Rome, also Rome, some aspects of it, but some places more like Florence, a little closer to the countryside. That's just beautiful. I also love rural Germany types of villages, or even any European village setting. I really enjoy those, but it's very hard to pinpoint, a country. But yeah, full pants, Marjorie. That's a great deal then. Yep. John, start buying a new tube of what everyone you are starting to use. Ones use more instead. Wait. I'm missing it. Wait. Sorry. I need to. And you right there. I'm not sure I follow John. Sorry. But I will Google good morning. I will Google good morning. Thank you, the anchor. Jacqueline, the one that sounds your artwork transition. Oh, yeah, okay. It's just OBS, but yeah, it's a good one. It's a useful one. Hey, RK Fab Art. Thank you for being here. Marjorie, you'll have to look through pictures friends took in Venice. Always wanted to paint in Venice. You'll find great subject there, I'm sure. Henny, have you heard of Rob Piercy's work? I think I have. Oops, just talked about how great the software is, and I accidentally hit the cheers. But in any case, that was cheers. Cheers sound effect. Rob Piercy, I'm pretty sure I have, but I'll have to Google for a second just to make sure. Rob Piercy. It looks familiar. I believe I've seen them before. But I can't be sure. I do believe I've seen. Oh, yeah. I'm familiar. Yep. I'm familiar with his work. That's really wonderful. I'll actually take a look at some of it. Some of it reminds me of who's that artist? Works all mediums, oils, acrylics. I forgot the name, but yeah, it's great. Very well-known artist. Raised in spirituality. Liron, where do you live and where were you raised? I was raised in a small town in Israel, real close to the center, close to Tel Aviv. And then what ended up happening was I moved to Tel Aviv as I was about the time I turned, I think, 25 or something like that, 24. Lived in Tel Aviv up until about a year ago, and then we moved to a smaller place, smaller town, down a little south. The prices in Tel Aviv rent have gone insane, and we decided no more. So we ended up living here. We do want to go back someday, and that may happen in the future, really, hopefully. But yeah, it's the best city to live in Israel. But yeah, it's just insane what's going on there with the renting market. If you rent an apartment, it's a nightmare. But yeah. I was raised though in a smaller town, in the center, very small. Had maybe 30 people in my age group in elementary school. That was all there was. Maybe 40 people. We had one class for every year, and that was the amount of people. There are a lot of, if we're just chatting, there are a lot of disadvantages to that actually. Because I didn't really find myself there as a kid, I had a few friends, but it wasn't really, I don't think, at the end of the day, I never really found, maybe until the military and after that, like my group of people. I always had like individual friends that I was closer with, but never felt that I belonged in any group, Later in high school, it expanded a bit, so we had more people. But the thing I discovered in high school was, I thought I'm maybe a nerd or something, and maybe I'll find a group of people there. And then what I discovered about that time, maybe high school or later in the later years that even the nerds, I don't really belong there too. I'm too normal to be a nerd and too nerdy to be a normal quote unquote. So yeah, that was funny. That was a funny experience looking back now. Not so funny going through it. I really didn't like school. I was so happy to be done with it. I mean, I liked studying. I was okay at it, but I didn't like the environment, the cliques, all of that. I hated it. So yeah, anti-hero. Firenze architecture is the most beautiful. It's beautiful. Yes. Like I said, I just woke up, but as you have more of that, you won't be wasting money. The more you have, the more money you have. Yes, that's true. Look, I honestly, John, I barely, I have so many paints and I go through them so slowly because my taste is so basic in paints. I just end up using the same old blues, reds, and so on. So yeah, I end up not spending too much on paints anyway. And some very kind people send me colors and paints to try. People and brands, so I really appreciate it. I don't think I'll need to buy paint for years now, so that's great. Henny, you might like his Port Marion Village painting. Let me see, Rob Piercy, Port Marion. I see a lot of, yeah, that was a very unique one. I saw that. That one I'm familiar with, yeah. It's a beautiful work. Very unique in his own style too, like among his own paintings. So yeah, very interesting artist. I'll dive a little deeper. I'm curious actually now that I've seen some of his works. Oh, let's see. Timothy, I've been binge watching your old videos lately. It's so fun to watch you problem solving stuff that now are integrated in your work. Remarkable progress. Thank you. Yeah, and I think as I evolve, maybe the content evolves in good ways, but also in ways that are less relatable to others. Maybe I don't explain something that in the past I would. Now I just attribute it to instinct in a way. So hopefully it's good that I made these videos from the get, because you can really see the growth process. And I don't think most artists do that. Maybe today more, but in the past definitely not. You wouldn't see the progress really. People would be very careful not to share their more amateurish works, which I still do to this day, kind of. But yeah. NHWY. Oh, hello yourself. John, did you take art in school? No. I was in a comics kind of class, comic drawing class in elementary school for about 2 years. Didn't teach me much though. It did let me play around a bit and draw, but for the most part I learned everything on my own, just experimenting. You can tell I'm not really classically or traditionally trained, but I think that's part of the beauty. I think I kept a lot of uniqueness that way. And I have a long way to go to carve out more of my uniqueness, honestly. So even if you do it, if you freelance it and you go just completely out there, still there's a danger of being influenced too much by others, and that's how it works. Marjorie, what category does anyone belong to in high school? I saw every character in the Breakfast Club. Yep. Timothy, and by the way, can't wait to see you paint some crit scenes. Yeah, I took maybe a few photos. I'm not sure there will be many, but hopefully I will. Jacqueline, love hearing your personal story. Shows how artists can come from all backgrounds. Yeah, definitely. One thing as a kid that I was missing was really, I think art helped me to maybe get more attention and get some compliments, so that sparked maybe to continue. And then I just became, took more interest in it and became better. So it's interesting to see the origin. But I think, honestly, I would have found art one way or another, probably. Katarina, do you get bored with watercolor? Not really. I may get bored with a certain subject or with a certain painting I'm working on, and then I'll take a break, but not with watercolor. Not so far, and I've been doing it for 7-8 years now, so yeah. Brazen Spirituality. Houston, Texas price is getting ridiculous here too. Our house is worth double the original price, purchase price in 20 years. Selling this house, we have to pay a similar price elsewhere, even more rural. Yep, that makes sense. Real estate's like that everywhere, I guess. Um, John, this lady did a video on how much she had that she did not know what to do with. And I wrote back saying, hand them out to people just starting out. Yeah, that makes sense. At some point, because I am using most of my supplies, but at some point I may end up just doing tons of giveaways and just unpacking, if it makes sense. So you're also learning on your own. Tembo artwork. You showing your progress makes you very relatable. I started watching you in the beginning of your channel. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, there's some bad stuff there, bad compared to now. But there is definitely a growth process. Yep, John. That's why I'm here, for people who are trying to learn on their own. I'm trying not to imprint or not to press too hard on what I believe is the way, because I try not to believe anything is the right way. Marjorie, I remember as a child looking through my aunt's journals, sketchbooks, matted and framed works in her closet. Your journey is on YouTube. Loved it, but your sketching was excellent from the beginning. Thank you. Yeah, I've had quite a lot of experience sketching when I got started. Yes, definitely way more than watercolor. I've been really drawing and sketching ever since I was a kid. I would say compared to now, my work was much, much inferior a few years ago, but compared to the averagely artistically inclined person, or I don't know if that's a way of putting it, but to the average person in art, definitely above, because I just have been doing it for, a decade or two on and off. Not seriously, but still, that's more than enough to build some experience, And if anything, watercolor almost helped me to improve my sketches because it demanded more of me. So it's very interesting. One more thing I didn't point out enough, I think, is this. If you look at this little chimney detail, I love the highlights next to it. Those were really important, really significant. So yeah, I think we're at a good point. Maybe we'll move towards wrapping this one up. I hope you enjoyed seeing the process. Real quick, if anyone just joined last minute, I can just do this and go back to the first one. There we go. We had the sketch. We had our first wash. We had our beginning of shadows. Look at how much depth it's starting to get at this stage. And then some more details. And then some more details in the shadows. And then some more highlights. And there we go. This is the final result. 80% through. I was sure I'm going to mess it up. When I looked at it at this stage, I still wasn't sure it's going to work. But I kept chugging along, doing what I felt was right in the moment. It ended up working out. So yeah. Marjorie, been with you since number 1. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That's huge. Like, that's crazy to hear. Thank you so much. John, thank you for another great live stream, Liron. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, my friend. Thank you so much, John. Katarina, I believe working is the right way. Been trying to teach myself portraits for almost 3 years, and my progress is huge. Yep, you have to in a way, it's almost like it needs to be important enough for yourself to do it. No one else can really pull you along and get you to practice. You need to want it, and if you don't, that's okay, right? You don't have to want it. Jim FT, I started with digital art, and then I wanted to touch the materials and see them being absorbed. So watercolor, yeah, that's so funny. It's completely the reverse for me. That's interesting. Gina, I've been painting 28 years now and still need to learn a lot. That's how it happens. Yes. Katarina, I did enjoy it. Thank you so much. AV Vermilion, I like your studying the master series of videos. Yeah, it's been a while. And I hope to do another one soon. Yeah, maybe I'll do one for next week. Maybe. That makes sense. Fascinated about what I can learn from them. Yeah, that's always interesting. I always caution, you want to be sure that in a way you don't lose yourself in the process. That's my biggest concern, losing one's uniqueness. But it can be a great tool of inspiration, for sure. Brazen Spirituality, thank you so much for this live. I learned so much. Thank you so much for being here. Much appreciated. Marjorie, not that you need a cheerleader, but I know it myself. I really appreciate it. I'm, usually the way I see these things is I don't let the booze get to me too much, and I don't let the cheering get to me too much in the sense of I try not to let it affect how I perceive, where I'm at and all of that, but I do really appreciate that. So yeah, I wouldn't lie. It does encourage. It does make me feel good. So thank you so much. Connie D, I'll have to join Team Replay. Yeah, sorry about that. Did you join just now? Because I didn't see you earlier, I think. But yeah, hopefully it's going to be a fun replay. Jacqueline, I've got to get busy on my commissions. Oh, that's, commissions. It's good. You have business going. Thanks for your tips. It helped me so much. And feel free, I believe you said about the one you're having trouble with. Send it over if you feel like it. Tembo artwork. Oh, Regina, I'm not sure if you're here, by the way. If Regina is here, sorry I haven't replied to your email with the tractor. I have seen it, though. I will reply soon. Tembo, thank you so much for your time and knowledge. Thank you. Katarina, thanks. I'll try to catch the next live. Yeah, definitely. We'll probably do another one next week, as usual. We'll go back to a routine of doing these in a row properly. But I guess thank you so much. We'll talk to you again in the next one. Until then, take care. Leave a comment. Feel free to leave a question if you have any that I missed. We'll talk to you again soon.